Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Kashaya and today I am analyzing the movie Bruised. This movie is written by Michelle Rosenfarb and directed by Halle Berry. Trigger warning, the film does discuss sexual assault, harassment, rape, and domestic violence. So I'll be talking about those things as well. And spoiler alert, I will be talking about the movie in whole. Also, go check it out if you haven't seen it. Originally, this movie was written for a 21-year-old white woman that Halle Berry had reimagined for an older black woman. Halle Berry wanted to make this movie because we don't usually see black women in these types of roles or these stories. Usually, the fighter is younger, but in an interview, she did explain that she just wanted to show a down on her luck woman with her last chance to redeem herself. So the movie is about a woman named Jackie Justice. Jackie Justice was in a cage fight about 4 years ago where she lost and she hasn't fought again. So it's revealed at the night of the cage fight, that was the night that Jackie gave up her son Manny. And while she was fighting, she was triggered. She was afraid, she was scared, and she wanted to get out of the fight. And it pretty much ruined her career. It ruined her self-esteem. It ruined her confidence. So we are taken into Jackie's job as a maid, and her employer's son constantly records her to the point that she pushes him down and breaks his phone. Of course, she loses her job. So she's being sexually harassed even at her new job, right? And then the next thing we see her in the neighborhood where she's also being harassed by these two guys. So these two scenes set up a history of sexual harassment in Jackie's world, and we find out that she suffered sexual abuse as well. When she gets home to her boyfriend manager, Desi, he doesn't even ask her what happened. He's just mad because he has to pay for her mistake and he really wants her to fight again, and she tells him she does not want to fight. He does not take that for an answer. He sees Jackie as his meal ticket. He sees Jackie as someone that can just pay his way. So he really wants her to start fighting for his own selfish reasons, not for Jackie, right? And he tells her, your gifts and your talents are God-given. And she's explaining to him, this is not what you want. And you experience a lot of abuse. You experience a lack of control. And it definitely triggers that fight or flight response. A lot of her fighting is due to her sexual abuse. Desi takes her to a basement brawl where she's saying, look, I don't do these types of fights, but she is forced to fight the champion that's there, and she beats her bloody. And that is where we're introduced to the character Immaculate, who is asking her to go train with his trainer, Budokan. Immaculate owns a fighting league and he wants Jackie to fight in it because he saw what she can do in the basement brawl, right? And as we see Immaculate and we see Jackie fighting, he's always kind of counting on her to get mad. Getting mad, in my opinion, is more of a trauma response, fight or flight. When she's losing, she kind of snaps and then she goes all in and she doesn't give up. She kind of loses it, which is what happened in the basement brawl when he originally saw her. So based on that, he figured she would definitely be a good contestant for a title match against the champ, who's a real MMA fighter. Immaculate, even though he presents this opportunity to Jackie, he again is doing this for his own reasons. He just wants her to last all 5 rounds and to win, to bring publicity to his league. He sees her as the perfect person. Her boyfriend Desi is jealous of this. He wants to be included as the manager, but Immaculate is refusing to work with him. He blames him for the way the cage fight happened. He felt like Jackie was not ready for that fight, but Desi forced her to do it just for the money. And so Jackie has been struggling with how all of that went. So Immaculate is offering her a chance at redemption. When Justice returns home, her mother is there, and we learn that they are estranged. They haven't spoken for years. right? And her mother brings her son Manny, who Jackie abandoned and left with his father. But we find out that his father has been murdered by being an undercover cop. And now Manny is mute due to the trauma that he experienced watching the death of his father. Harvard research indicates that having responsive and supportive relationships as early as possible can actually reverse the damage and effects of trauma. And so you can definitely see that in this movie. Desi is jealous, he is angry, he does not want Manny living with them, and he even asked her mother, "Can you take him? Jackie is a fighter, she can't care for her son." And the mother is refusing. So Jackie steps up to the plate and takes care of her son, and she realizes that she has to be the mother that she didn't have, that she has to stand up for her son, she has to protect her son, she has to make him feel safe. And that's what she wished her mother would have done for her. Her mother would bring men home, black out, and they would take advantage of Jackie. And her uncle, we find out, also has taken advantage of her as well. And we find out he was paying the rent. And a lot of parents and families don't believe kids, don't believe that they're being actually abused. And so when Jackie confronts her mother is responds with saying that Jackie is always making things up. A lot of kids, teenagers, adults experience, their family being in denial about the abuse that they've experienced, especially if it's a loved one or a family member. Which is very unfortunate, but the film does highlight that, right? And Jackie, she wanted her mother to protect her. She wanted her mother to put a lock on her door. She wanted her mother to know and to care. And she realizes that she has to do that for Manny if she wants Manny to heal and to thrive. She has to be someone that he can depend on. And so she sets out to prove that throughout the film, to get him to feel safe with her, to get him to open up and to trust her as his mother. When someone experiences trauma, they can definitely develop coping mechanisms to help alleviate the physical and or mental pain that they experience due to the trauma. A lot of that can result in alcohol abuse, drugs, isolation, cutting. Harvard studies also show that adults who have endured trauma and abuse growing up are wired differently. Trauma does impact and can change the brain, the chemistry of the brain. There's a lot of studies still going on about that, but with having those support systems in place, a lot of it can be reversed. A lot of it can be quote unquote fixed in a way. And so that's why healthy support systems are very, very important. If you're struggling with trauma, it's definitely worth it to look into getting help, because it can, especially having like a group of people that have also experienced it, it can definitely help. So Jackie Justice goes to training and she meets Budokan. Now, Budokan, when we first see her, she's chanting, she's wearing all white, and she really becomes a healthy foundation for Jackie to navigate her trauma in a healthy way. She represents hope for Jackie. She lets her know that she's also experienced some traumatic things as well. So she has all these practices in place to help her manage that. And so she shows Jackie that it's very possible to live healthy with your trauma. And so she encourages Jackie to confront her mother, to talk it out, because it is affecting her fighting. I know a lot of people were caught off guard with her romantic relationship with Budokan, but if you look at all of the relationships in Jackie's life, they're all toxic, they're all selfish. Nobody is being that support system for her. The only one that's doing that is Budokan, and it's so easy for people to finally have someone that sees them, that understands them, and just helps them it's easy to gravitate towards that relationship and to latch on and to even grow romantic feelings for that person. So it didn't really catch me off guard when you look at it that way. This film is also about breaking generational curses. We have 3 generations of trauma. Her mother uses drugs and alcohol to cope with her own trauma. And the older generation had less resources when it came to mental health, especially dealing with racism and oppression, definitely contributes to the trauma that they've all faced. Even though the movie does not specifically talk about her mother's trauma or what she's gone through, we do know that she's alcoholic and she's a drug addict. She had her brother paying the rent. So yeah, it definitely points that there are some things that may have happened to her mother as well that the film doesn't talk about, that didn't allow her to be a good mother to Jackie. Right, so it got passed down, and Jackie experienced her own abuse and trauma. She was even went to juvie as well. And now we have the son who has experienced his own trauma and is mute currently. There's a scene where her mother points to Jackie and says, "Does this look like a winner to you?" So she definitely doesn't have a lot of support when it comes to just gaining her confidence back, right? There's nobody in her life that is helping her build her up. They're all her mother is struggling with her own trauma, right? She's not dealing with it. She's not healing from it. She can't show Jackie how to heal from her trauma because she hasn't healed from her trauma. So all Jackie can do is drink, because that's what her mother does, right? Drink and pop pills. A lot of children do mirror their parents in that way. A lot of parents will say, "Hey, don't do what I do. Be better than me." But we need to see what that looks like. You can't just say it. It's behaviors, it's practices, it's decisions that have to be made. You have to have that know-how. Her mother isn't able to do that for her. And Jackie is in the process of breaking those generational curses, trying to provide a healthy environment for her son so that her and her son can both heal. And breaking generational curses and healing generational trauma can be very difficult, can be very ugly, right? It can be really hard to heal. And that's why a lot of people don't. A lot of people avoid it as much as they can to kind of distract from that pain. Jackie goes through the phone in her son's backpack where she sees baby pictures of Manny, and she comes across a video of Manny with his father playing just the two of us on a keyboard. So she ends up buying a keyboard for Manny, for him to feel more at home, to feel like he has something for himself. And there's an incident where Desi is just so aggravated and agitated and upset that he takes the keyboard, and Jackie is trying to stop him from destroying it, but he ends up knocking her down and hurting her, and he breaks the keyboard. And Jackie just like, this is enough. Now, when it was just her and Desi, she was okay with the toxicity. She was okay with being mistreated, and the relationship is just not healthy. And it's not until Manny comes into the home and Desi breaks his keyboard that she's like, enough is enough. Like, she knows and understands that Manny can't ever feel safe in that environment, and that this is a fearful situation. It's just unhealthy. It's toxic. And so she decides to take Manny and move out and move on from that relationship. And a lot of people may not be able to leave their partners for themselves, but maybe for their kids. Sometimes they'll leave for their kids. And Jackie really wants to be a good mother to Manny. She wants to be that mother that she didn't have. And so she realizes that she really does have to leave this relationship. So on the way to the training with her son, the song Just the Two of Us plays. And that pretty much triggers Manny. And Justice takes the time to really take care of him and to be that support system for him when he's triggered, even though it meant her missing her own practice. And the film does an amazing job of showing a panic attack. She has one after she's triggered by Immaculate for missing a training session where he tells her, you know, she's not good enough. She's just a tomato can. It really triggered a lot of her insecurities and her doubt and her fear, that led her to having a panic attack. So Jackie moves in with her mother and it starts affecting her fighting. And Booty Khan encourages her to confront her mother so that this does not get in the way of the fight, right? She can have a clear head so she could focus on the fight and not her trauma. So Justice confronts her mother, and her mother is oblivious. She doesn't believe that what Jackie is saying is true. But then she's like, why didn't you tell me? Jackie believes her mother knew. And if she didn't know, she should have been aware enough to protect her, to realize that she was vulnerable in those moments. She should have been a parent that protected her, right? She should have put a lock on her door. But this pushes Jackie to leave her mother's house and it moves in with Budokan. Trauma in a lot of ways can hinder our dreams. It can hinder our purpose. It can slow us down. It can weigh us down, right? And so the film shows that, you know, Jackie is known for running. Her mother calls it the Jackie, right? Because she runs away from her problems. She runs away from her purpose, her gifts. She doesn't confront them. But as she takes on this journey, as she takes on this fight, she is standing up and she is confronting her demons. She is dealing with her trauma and she's trying to heal. She's trying to move on. But just like her son, she has her fears, her worries, her self-doubt, and she's trying. She's really trying in this movie to get herself out of this hole and provide more for her and her son, give him a better life. Before the fight, Budokan and Jackie are in bed together, and Jackie explains to her that she really needs to do this on her own, right? She needs to prove to herself that she's able, that she's capable, and she needs to figure out her relationship with her son. She needs to figure out what's next for her without having to worry about a relationship or feeling like she's being dependent on Budokan. And so she lets Budokan know that, you know, after this, they need to go their own separate ways. When you've been relying on people and the relationships have been abusive or toxic or just not healthy, she needs to have her independence. She sees life differently now. She's in a different space now. And so it's important for her to be able to figure herself out without having to think about someone else, right? She's still healing. So the big title fight comes, and this fight is choreographed so well. It looks like a real fight. I can definitely see Jackie. She's really fighting for herself. She's fighting for her son. She's fighting for a better life. It's not really so much about the opponent. You know, this is about her. This is about a journey to herself. This is about getting her confidence back, getting her self-worth back, and just redeeming herself. The fight is done so well. It's really beautiful to watch. Halle Berry did a very, very good job with this film, with that scene especially. After the fight, Jackie has her swag back. Like, she got her confidence back. She got a little walk to her. So by the end of the film, Manny trusts Jackie. He understands that she's there for him, and he starts talking to her, right? And that's all she really wanted. That's what the main goal in this film is, right? She stopped fighting when she gave up her son, and it wasn't until she got her son back that she started fighting again. And the whole goal of this film, I feel like the fighting is really secondary. The fighting just gives her an opportunity to better herself. She can make between $10,000 to $20,000 in this fight. The real goal is her son, right? So she doesn't have her son, to getting her son, to her son not speaking to her, to her son speaking to her. And that lights her up. That makes her happy. They have a new beginning, and hopefully it'll be a better one. It'll be a healthy one. They're both on a journey to heal their trauma together. This film just it really highlights the realities of growing up with trauma. Trauma can tell us all kind of horrible messages about ourselves. You know, we're not worthy, we're not good enough, we're not loved, we're not protected, you know, especially since Black women are the least protected in this world. And that's definitely shown in this film, you know, with Jackie being taken advantage of by so many men, and her mother not being there to protect her, her father not being there to protect her. You know, it's really sad. And so I know that Jackie really wants to reverse that with her son. She doesn't want to become a parent that doesn't protect her child and experience abuse like she has. So Jackie aims to heal her own trauma while becoming a parent and a support system for her son. Halle Berry, in some interviews, mentioned that she had a little to no budget for this film. She had to fight really hard to complete and make this film. She said it almost got shut down about 10 times. In the scene where she meets Budokan, she was only able to get one take. And I really get the feeling that she didn't really get to make the film that she really wanted, but she still did a really good job with what she had. But you would think with a name like Halle Berry that she wouldn't have these struggles, especially since she was able to sell the film for about $20 million to Netflix. You would think that, you know, just with her name alone, that she would have those resources, but that just wasn't the case. Halle Berry trained really extensively for this role. She ended up breaking 2 of her ribs, and she kept it under wraps. She didn't want to tell anyone because she didn't want the film to get shut down, because she knew she would never be able to get this film completed. So some of these scenes, she's really in pain. In another interview, she talks about, you know, with Black women always having to fight, right? That's just normal for us to have to fight for what we want. And she had to fight for this movie just like Jackie had to fight for herself, fight for her son. Halle Berry also grew up with domestic violence with her mother as well, and she was also in a relationship where she experienced domestic violence, and she even has permanent hearing loss in one of her ears. So these topics, this subject is something that she can really relate to. I feel like people really want her to be like this glam, this kick-ass star, but she really wants to tell these stories. These stories of, you know, Black women especially are rarely centered. They're rarely made. And so, I mean, it's getting better now, you know, of course, but she really just wanted to tell that story. She's worked with group homes and talked with a lot of people who have experienced domestic violence. So this is something that's really special to her, and this is just her ministry. You know, it makes sense that she would tell a story like this, that she would make a film like this. And you know, with this being her first film, she did a really great job. It's not easy being an actor director. The fact that she has been an actor for so many years, it probably made the process a little bit easier for her to tap into the acting part. But yeah, being an actor director can be really hard, having to set everybody else up, having to answer questions, and then deliver a performance like she did. I think she did a really great job. This movie is really good to watch when you're feeling down, when you need some hope or some confidence or just like some inspiration. I watched this movie about 3 times. The first time around, I was a little triggered, like I was feeling down myself. So this is like a great movie to kind of uplift you and to show you to keep fighting, to keep going, and that things do get better, and to reach out to people because they can be a huge support. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. I know this is a really long video, so if you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, especially if you want to see more movie reviews. Let me know in the comments what movies you would like me to do next. All right, thank you, and see you later.